For the very few of you who don't know, this is Pokémon. A game where you play as a 10-year-old who's for some reason expected to travel the world by themselves and take down crime organizations en route to becoming the Pokémon Master. Along the way you meet and capture all sorts of creatures, some cute, some fierce, and some that feel like they just really shouldn't have been made at all. You battle, capture, and train them as you progress through the 8 gyms of each game's respective region, then take on the vaunted Elite Four, the 4 best trainers in the entire game before challenging the champion. This all seems like a pretty basic formula that would be milked for a couple games and die down as a lot of gaming series do. However, this was something entirely different. A few games turned into spin-offs, movies, and then whatever this is. Today, I'll be looking not only at Gen 1, but the entire collection of Pokémon games in retrospect. Putting aside the TV shows and movies because honestly they never really did anything for me as a kid, and so I have little to no memories of ever even watching them. This also won't be a review of the games, as that's just a salt mine in the Pokémon community I'd really rather not enter. And I also believe there is no actual best game, instead it's all just a matter of preference. That being said, however, we all know it's Gen 4. Gen 4 is the best, and it's no question really. But before we tackle that masterpiece, there's a few we have to get through first, and it only makes sense to start where it all began. I remember first picking up my green Game Boy Color, slapping this bad boy in there, and opening up what was the greatest technological feat my young eyes had ever bore witness to. In just a few days, I got my Charmander, then got completely bodied by Brock and his stupid Onix. So I deleted my save file, took Bulbasaur, which is essentially just easy mode, and got my revenge. I still remember the 5 other Pokemon that I started with. It was something like Venusaur, Nidoking, Victory Bell, it was Kangaskhan, Tangela for some reason, and I went with Gyarados. I then developed a little bit of a gambling addiction at the Celadon Casino and beat the game, becoming the champion. I did this again and again and again, never really getting bored. I remember the folklore type tales me and my friends would share amongst ourselves at school about the Mew you could find under the truck, which, as we all know now, is complete BS. And the first time I ever saw Missing Notes and started screaming thinking my game was broken. I remember taking my rival battles way too seriously, especially once I had found out that he had become champion before I had. It was the type of adventure that completely captured my childhood imagination, and despite its now obvious limitations as a child, it really felt limitless. And it was the type of game that just completely shaped my generation. It was perfect. That, of course, was until the mass hysteria of that elementary school playground surrounding Pokemon Red and Blue was chaotic, infectious, and looking back was probably one of the best times of my life. But all of that was absolute trash, compared to when Game Freak did the unthinkable by being the first ever people to invent color. What was essentially just mashing the A button until either your Pokemon won or lost the battle, became so much more with the introduction of breeding Pokemon, held items, the 2 new Pokemon types in Dark and Steel, the vastly expanded move pools, and not 1 but 2 casinos for me to further my addiction at? You sign me up. Then came the absolute bombshell that was finding out once you battle through the gym challenges of the Johto region, rather than being sent to some bittersweet credit screen, Pokemon Gold and Silver instead told the players, "Whoa there, you thought you were done? No, I got a little something for you. You see these 8 gyms of the Kanto region? Yeah, you gotta go back and do them." As a budding little lemon child, my mind was blown. It was essentially 2 games in one, and being able to go back and see all the newly remastered towns of the Kanto region, the updated sprites of all the Gen 1 people and Pokemon, brought a sense of continuity to the games that was sadly completely forgotten about in all the future generations. The first gen Pokemon games now felt like a match of Pong compared to all the new mechanics that were introduced in Gen 2. The series had peaked and really couldn't get any better, And that's what Game Freak intended, as this was supposed to be the end for the now monolithic brand that is Pokémon. With no future games planned, the devs decided to put everything they thought possible into the second generation, wrapped it up in a nice bow, and released it to the public. But, then this happened, and they realized what it was exactly they were sitting on. And so, a few years later, naturally, came the Hoenn region. While many Pokemon YouTubers and fans alike herald the 3rd gen as one of, if not the greatest Pokemon game ever made due to the introduction of Pokemon abilities, which completely reshaped the entire game as we knew it, alongside huge graphical improvements with the series moving to the fancy new Game Boy SP, and also the addition of the Pokemon contest, if that was your thing. However, there's something that the Gen 3 fanboys just didn't know.
The game sucked!
Now calm down. I know I'm definitely standing on an island with this hot take, but you know what else is an island? The entire Hoenn region. And unless you like hearing this noise, while you're surfing around on the tentacle that you only caught to get through half the map, you're gonna have a bad time. And now I know complaining about the water in Gen 3 is some low-hanging fruit, but fruit is fruit and Pop's gotta eat. And apart from the classic IGN, dirt, too much water, game bad, I do have other, more personal gripes with this game. Along with the pacing that I found kind of fell off once you acquired Surf, which almost sounds counterintuitive, I found the design of many of the new Pokemon to be pretty lackluster, especially in comparison to the previous 2 generations. But really, I'm not going to pretend as if this game is awful by any means, because that would just be entirely untrue. Especially once we compare them to some of the newer installations, which sadly we'll be getting to a little later. It's still in the upper echelon of the series due to the previous editions I mentioned, as well as not 1 but 2, depending on the game you played, interesting teams of bad guys and an overall solid story involving these 2 nutcase organizations. One fighting to cover the earth and water, the other solely in land. I also remember how hunting down and solving the puzzles to unlock access to the Regis, and also eventually climbing through Rayquaza's crumbling tower in Emerald, were some of the really great moments in the series. But these highs were few and far between and it all just kind of fell flat. But that's just my opinion, and speaking of opinions, I hope you're ready for it, because here's a lot of mine. This game, oh my god, masterpiece. Woo! What can I say about Gen 4 and the Sinnoh region that hasn't already been said? I mean, I could talk about the incredible variety of landscapes, the pacing that never felt as though it was dragging on, or how it featured the best starters ever made. Which leads us to the main point, and really the only thing that matters in a Pokemon game, the Pokédex. The Pokemon of this game were so incredible in every way. It had Wooloo before Wooloo became Wooloo, the best Route 1 Pokemon in Staraptor and Luxray, the best fossil Pokemon, and so much more. But what really solidifies this Pokédex to me were the new evolutions that were added to some of the old fan favorites, as well as some mostly forgotten Pokemon alike. With the likes of Tangrowth, Electivire, Rhyperior, Magnezone, Magmortar, Mamoswine, Dusknoir, and all of these, even this abomination got some love. Coupling that with some of the best legendary and pseudo-legendary Pokemon the series ever got, you really can't help but love this roster. The gyms themselves are so much more thematically detailed, the gym leaders were interesting, and their teams, albeit, I'll admit, mostly pretty easy, all demonstrated some of the best designed Pokemon of their respective typing. I still remember grinding through the brutal Elite Four, potion spamming my way all the way through to the champion, where I was met with this. Now this, and this, there's no difference here. These are all the same emotions. I'm hyped. Cynthia is not only the first female Pokemon champion, good on you Game Freak, but she's also arguably the best and most challenging champion in the series, which is shown by her frequent reappearances in future installments of the series. I still have nightmares trying to figure out what the hell Spiritomb's typing was, and why my psychic attacks just weren't hitting this ghost type. Not to mention her terrifying Garchomp and her Togekiss that for some reason would always end up being the one to completely wipe my team. Cynthia to me felt like one of the first really rewarding battles I had had in a very long time. You either left her arena in anguish or felt like the king of the world. There was no in between. If you did manage to beat her, you were rewarded with some of the best post-game content since the second gen. A completely new island, the national Pokédex allowing you to catch any and all Pokemon that had ever been in a game up until this point, and I know that sounds like something that should just come with all games, but it doesn't, a little spoiler alert. And if you were one of the few that, enjoyed watching paint dry and grass grow, there was a few neat additions to help you better shiny hunt as well. I will forever remember Pokemon Platinum as one of the best gaming experiences I ever had in my life, which naturally brought me on the longest and most anxious wait of my life, to see what Game Freak would come up with next. Sadly, this is where it all started to go downhill for me. Everything post-Gen 4 I consider as new Pokemon. I don't know if you can see the same divide that I'm referring to, but I feel like there's a huge creative difference between the first 4 gens and the second 4, and we'll kind of touch on that in a bit. Perhaps that has to do just with me getting older by the times these games came out, coupled with my disappointment in Gen 5, but around the time Black and White were released is when I felt my passion for the game kinda slip away. And sadly, I don't think I'm alone when I say that I feel as though Game Freak's passion started drifting as well. With each new release, the games felt more and more manufactured rather than crafted. The designs of some of these Pokemon felt criminally uninspired, especially in Gen 5, where the graphics seem to have taken a pretty substantial step backwards. They also seemingly became more and more about bringing the player down a set journey through an extreme amount of tedious cutscenes and tutorials, rather than letting you make your own fun by getting lost and exploring this beautiful region that the devs had created in front of you. Now before I go any further, I do have to make a disclaimer that I've actually never played the 6th generation X and Y, and so obviously it'll be left out of the remainder of this video. However, if you would like to watch me do my first ever blind run through of the game, please leave a comment below and I'd love to put it up on the channel. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Now while Gen 5 still had some of the older elements of what makes a Pokemon game, Gen 7 and 8 felt like something completely unfamiliar. Sun and Moon, to me, despite trying to shake up the formula, which I can appreciate, felt like the tutorial portion never ended and was just riddled with hand-holding throughout the entire game. If it wasn't How walking you through every single route and town you came across, please leave me alone.
No! We just spoke outside the gate. Ah!
It was the rotom map pinging every single step you were forced to take. The complete dismantling of the gym system that the community knew and loved didn't go over well with me either. It felt as though Game Freak were using this guise of being different and creative as an excuse just to be lazy. Then, all my disappointments culminated with Gen 8. Despite the hype surrounding the first ever home console Pokemon game that would be released for the Switch, Sword and Shield felt like the most incomplete project yet. Now remember how I was talking about, oh wow, you get the National Pokédex as a reward, wow, this is really cool. I mentioned that on purpose because for some reason, it was completely left out of this game. And so half the series roster is just gone. And this just completely alienated and divided a lot of the fans of the older games. even with the old gen system returning, none of the fights felt rewarding due to the numbingly dull and easy difficulty of the game. The constant EXP share that just couldn't be turned off, the ability to catch fully evolved, strong Pokemon in the wild area and within dens brought the game to a snooze. Adding on top the complete removal of any real evil team and instead being given this? Maybe it has to do with just the unrealistic timelines Game Freak puts on their devs who are really trying to create new and exciting adventures for us. Or maybe the series is just living on borrowed time. But I know for sure I'm not the only one who feels slighted by what comes across as a lack of effort on their part. The Pokemon series means a lot to me. Enough for me to start up a YouTube channel to ramble on for however many minutes this video ends up being. And I know it means a lot for so many others out there as well. You know, today I look back on these games with such nostalgia, it almost feels like some sort of sad memory of something that's died. Maybe there's nothing wrong with the new Pokemon games though. Maybe Gens 1 through 4 aren't as great as I remember. Maybe I'm just getting old and really miss being a kid. Thank you.